Nap Scrapbook Boxing, this is part 2 of Johnny Dundee. I wanted to show you Eugene Creek, who was to your right. Because Eugene Creek was the man who lost his title to Johnny Dundee in 1923. Eugene Creek was a very, very good fighter, and he's very underrated. And I wanted to expose him today in this particular series. But I want to show you some of the fights that Johnny Dundee was in Johnny Dundee's scrapbook. I have a scrapbook of just Johnny Dundee, over 1,000 pages. It's a phenomenal book. It actually is. I protect this book basically with my dear life, because it's a responsibility of mine to have some memorabilia that others don't have. So let's take a look at some of the fights that Johnny Dundee was involved in. Now what you're looking at here is referee Harry Ertl. He's raising the hand of a fighter by the name of Todd Morgan. And Todd Morgan just beat up Johnny Dundee. This is towards the end of Johnny Dundee's career. Johnny Dundee just, he was in the ring too long at this point in his career. But I just wanted to show you some articles and some pictures of Johnny Dundee. As a matter of fact, before we move on, I'm going to show you Todd Morgan. He was a junior lightweight champion. Okay, this is one of the scrapbooks I had to pull out with Todd Morgan in it. And this is Todd Morgan here. He's a junior lightweight champion in 1929. And this is the fighter that we were looking at fighting Johnny Dundee. Todd Morgan was a very good fighter. He was a junior lightweight champion. As you can see here, he was from Washington, D.C. And so I just wanted to show you Todd Morgan in this conversation. This is Todd Morgan. Now here's another article. You have Joe Click, and he took advantage of Johnny Dundee. Once again, Johnny Dundee was basically past his prime. Don't want to take credit away from his opponents, but it was what it was. Johnny Dundee was a phenomenal fighter. Unfortunately, he stayed on too long like a lot of fighters do, and it goes on his record. You see, Johnny shows flash of old form in the 5th frame, but takes 10-round passing from rugged Brooklynite. And his name was Joe Click. And Joe Click was really, really a good fighter. One day I'm just going to break some of these articles down to you. I'm just trying to move on. Like I said, this whole book is Johnny Dundee. Now this fighter here that Johnny Dundee is in the ring with, Johnny Dundee is to the right, and Red Chapman is to your left. Red Chapman was a very, very good fighter. In fact, he was an explosive fighter, was Red Chapman. He's to your left, and Johnny Dundee is to your right. So let's move on to some more pages of Johnny Dundee. Like I said, this entire book is Johnny Dundee, 1,000 pages. Every fight he's ever fought, every situation he was under, every photo I have in this book. It's an incredible book with Johnny Dundee. Now what I decided to do is give you a little bonus like I always do. This is Todd Morgan. Since I showed you Todd Morgan, I pulled out another book with Todd Morgan. A lot of his articles in there. Todd Morgan knocks out Mike Ballerino. And this is when he won the 130-pound crown. He became the junior lightweight champion out of Washington, D.C. Now it says here, little-known Seattle boxer acquires the junior lightweight crown. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that. This is a whole different book. Let me just lift this up to you. This book right here is another book with 1,000 pages in it. If you go front and back, it's 2,000 pages. So I have 860 of these kinds of books. And they're all 2,000 pages total when you go front and back. I got to start saying that because I keep saying 1,000 pages, which they are, but front and back would be 2,000 pages of information. So I just wanted to show you that. This is Todd Morgan. He knocks out Mike Ballerino for the crown. And it gives a whole write-up on that particular fight. So let's get back to Johnny Dundee. Just wanted to show you that. Now, Johnny Dundee would be in a ring with a phenomenal fighter by the name of Sid Terrace. Sid Terrace is to your right. I'm going to show you the fight between Sid Terrace and Johnny Dundee. Sid Terrace would give Ruby Goldstein fits. Matter of fact, that was almost a world championship fight. And it was just a local fight between two local fighters. Ruby Goldstein was admired by all Jewish onlookers that night between Sid Terrace and Ruby Goldstein. And Sid Terrace knocks out Ruby Goldstein in one round. And it was one of the saddest nights in the Jewish community. But let's take a look at Sid Terrace and Johnny Dundee. Now here I wanted to show you Johnny Dundee loses bout to Sid Terrace. Sid Terrace, like I said, was a phenomenal fighter. And he would unfortunately lose. He would win actually to, a bout with Johnny Dundee. I'm thinking and reading this at the same time as I speak to you, so please excuse my interference here. Now here you're looking at Johnny Dundee. Fight doctors checking him out, getting him prepared for that fight with Sid Terrace. Here you have Johnny Dundee is to your left, Sid Terrace is to your right. Dundee loses to Sid Terrace. Historic at Madison Square Garden. You see, the fights during those days, it was taken like it was a World Series or the NBA Finals. And these were just fights. It was probably one of 50 fights that year. And all those fights were like that in the 1920s. They took boxing very seriously. It was about horse racing and boxing. That's all it was. Like I said, this whole book is Johnny Dundee. Every article. Now here's Johnny Dundee with Benny Leonard. It was a vacant title of Benny Leonard. Now I want to show you another fighter that Johnny Dundee was in a ring with. His name was, as you can see here, Pepper Martin. And Vincent Pepper Martin was a hell of a fighter. Let me show you Pepper Martin. Let me get his book for you. All right, so I wanted to show you Vincent Pepper Martin. Very good fighter he was. This is Vincent Pepper Martin, hard-hitting Brooklyn featherweight, 1929. He was a phenomenal fighter. And I just wanted to show you Vincent Pepper Martin because of the article that you were looking at with Johnny Dundee. He was an opponent of Johnny Dundee. Vincent Pepper Martin, phenomenal fighter he was. All right, back and forth we are. Now we're back to Johnny Dundee's book. Johnny Dundee boxes rings around Pepper Martin. This is the article. Junior Lightweight Championship. Easy outpoints Brooklyn Slugger in a whirlwind 15-round bout at New York's Velderdome. So Johnny Dundee defeated Vincent Pepper Martin. Phenomenal. And this article just goes on and on and on and explains the fight and what happened and so on and so forth. All right, so let's move on. All right, so I'm giving you an overview shot. This is another page of Johnny Dundee. Same book. But this one here, you have Johnny Dundee evens the score with Charlie White. Now, I showed you Charlie White. Scotch Wap takes 15 rounds decision from hard-hitting Chicago lightweight. He was a very hard puncher. Charlie White. He was a boxer in lively New York bout. Now, the thing with Charlie White, Chicago has some great lightweights. You had a fighter by the name of Ray Miller. Ray Miller was a knockout machine. He was knocking out everybody out there in Chicago. You had another hard-hitting fighter by the name of Charlie White. Barney Ross was another outstanding, but he wasn't as hard of a punch as the rest of those guys out there in Chicago. But Barney Ross was an outstanding Chicago lightweight as well. Trying to balance this here. That's the fight between Johnny Dundee, who was the Scotch Wap, and Charlie White. Now here you have Sid Terrace. Now they fought 3 times. Now I showed you one of the fights between Sid Terrace and Johnny Dundee. Terrace has Dundee close to a knockout in 15-round battle. Just trying to move on here. Here you have Johnny Dundee beaten by Bernstein. Now that's the Bernstein fight that I showed you a little earlier. At least I was talking about that fight. Jack Bernstein, he was a Jewish fighter. Phenomenal fighter was Jack Bernstein. Bernstein is awarded verdict over Johnny Dundee, the veteran Scotch Wop, loses junior lightweight championship on a poor decision. New champion has spectacular rise. Alright, so I'm going to close this out. This is the second part of the first video that I showed you with Johnny Dundee. He was a phenomenal fighter. He was an Italian fighter. And he was an outstanding champion, having ranked number 9, like I said, collectively with Benny Leonard and Tony Canzaneri. So thanks for hanging in with me. This is Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. All great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Thanks for your time and looking at this outstanding scrapbook of Johnny Dundee. Salute to my subscribers. Salute to Johnny Dundee.